What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with my friend Antoine Hostoy. He's from the product team of Roger Dubuis. I'm very excited because I think I've been waiting for this for a really long time. Roger Dubuis has just created a new Hommage double retrograde perpetual calendar, and it's fantastic. But let's talk a little bit about Roger Dubuis himself. He is a legendary watchmaker. I believe he started his career in Longines.
Yes,
right?
Exactly correct.
9 years there.
Yeah.
Then he spent the better part of 2 decades at Patek Philippe.
Exactly.
Then he, started his own independent atelier, and there he would restore vintage watches, but he would also work on complications and create pieces for clients, right? And then he had a meeting with a gentleman named Carlos Diaz.
Indeed.
In 1995, they created a brand, and I have to say, since I'm really old, I was actually there when the brand first came around, and it was incredible, right? Because they were creating watches at the highest level conceivable, right? With a design language that was completely unique, but with a quality that just resonated so powerfully. And one of the watches they used to start everything off was the double retrograde perpetual calendar. But Antoine, talk to me about this mechanism and this beautiful movement, because it's really part of the history of Roger.
Indeed, well, it's part of the history. It's actually the retrograde system was invented by Roger and Jean-Marc, and they registered the patent in 1989, so 10 years before launching this specific module 72. And it's really part of the philosophy of Roger, who liked complication pieces but made it in a simple way. And the whole pattern is about this simplicity of the complication. So it's paradoxical, but it's very identical of this man, Roger.
Well, it's really beautiful also because you take a perpetual calendar, which is basically telling you all the calendar, the shifting rhythms with the 30, 31 days, 28 or 29 in the leap year, but with the double retrograde for days and dates, it comes alive in a way that's so just visually enticing. I can only imagine customers were like sitting around at midnight, trying to stay awake or waiting for their watch to jump. And could you imagine at the end of the month, for example, everything jumping? Yeah. It's so cool, right? Also from a design perspective, the double retrograde was something completely innovative in watchmaking as well, because it brought the possibility to create really expressive dials, And we talk about Roger being an amazing watchmaker. He and Carlos were also incredible designers, but the typography that was used on these dials was so sexy. It was so wonderfully expressive. I can only think of potentially, Louis Cartier, that was so extraordinary at at using typography in this expressive way. So now we have a watch that every collector has probably been begging you for, right? They're like, hey, Antoine or David, who's our friend and the CEO, please bring back the Hommage, but in its original incarnation. And I love the fact that you, being a very nice person, have given the people exactly what they want. You have brought back the original Hommage in a 38 mm diameter with this stunning double retrograde perpetual calendar. But somehow, when I was putting it on my wrist, I recognize everything, but it's even more visually rich somehow. Talk to me about what you've done here with the dial.
Well, indeed, yes. In terms of expressivity is actually one of the things we stand for. We moved from what was in the past a flat dial to something that is in 3D. We have different layers on the dial. It's kind of what we call special composition, where you have 3D effect, and also different finishes and different materials. And this is what gives the richness to the piece, because you have the layers, because you have the finishes, because you have everything. You mentioned the typography, and this is what really makes it a timepiece of today compared to what was done in the past, back in the 90s.
This dial is incredible. It's so stunning, right? I mean, first you have the base of the dial is it lacquer?
It is.
But it's so beautifully executed because there's a mirror finish to it. And then you have all these different sunken or elevated tracks. You've got these 2 elevated double retrograde tracks executed in my favorite material, mother of pearl, which Roger was really a pioneer in the use of mother of pearl, even for men's complicated watches. You have that same material applied to the moon phase indicator for the perp cal, and also for the months and the leap year indicator. And then also you have this very beautiful raised track for the minutes as well. And there's so much to discover when you're looking at this watch. But then look at it on the wrist. Guys, it's perfect. 38 mm, the original size of the Hommage double retrograde perpetual calendar, right?
Absolutely. Not only the size, we're talking about the face of the watch. You can have a look at the buckle as well. Because
you brought back the old buckle.
We did.
That's awesome. Because I have one of these old watches as well. So one of my favorite elements was this beautiful skeletonized round, deploying it as well with the R and the D. And okay, the name of this watch is really interesting to me because it's obviously the Hommage double retrograde perpetual calendar, but it's called La Placide. So
It is.
what is La Placide, Antoine?
La Placide. Well, Roger, as a child, was a scout, going into kids camp out in the nature, discovering nature in the woods, and during those camps, every single child will have a nickname representing his temper, his character.
Right.
And for him, it was Placide, and Placide translates as calm, quiet. And it was so on point that Roger kept it throughout his life, and his friends and everyone will call him every now and then Placide, up until before founding the Maison. Actually, he founded another company a few years before, and it was called PME, and the P stood for Placide. So for him, it resonated as something that he was. So when we said we're going to pay tribute to Roger the man, and we have to find the name for the piece, couldn't name it Roger, it was his name, so we said let's call it La Placide, in tribute to who he was as a watchmaker and as a person. So that's where the La Placide comes from.
You know, I think if you're a watch collector out there, I think, first of all, from the sheer beauty of this watch, if you can imagine it an homage in that original configuration, but elevate it in every dimension from the beauty of its case. It's also Geneva's seal.
The new criteria since 2012 in the Poinçon de Genève includes chronometry. So we have chronometry in the piece.
There are just going to be 28 of these executed in this rose gold case with this stunning blue and mother of pearl dial, La Placide. I think as a collector, this is going to be an incredibly important watch also, because it's not just one of the most gorgeous timepieces I've seen for a long time, but it's really the window for the future in terms of what's happening at Roger Dubuis. I think I also want to give a big shout out to David Chaumet as well, who is like Roger, he probably, I don't know, I've never seen him without his shirt on, but maybe he has Roger Dubuis tattooed.
No, but he was there from the beginning.
But he loves Roger Dubuis, like in a very, very sincere way. And I have to say, you can only achieve something like this with a leader that really understands the DNA so beautifully. It's also interesting to me because we were having this conversation, like how does a classic, well right now it's just 28 watches, but if it does become a collection, coexist with the contemporary watches as well. And you know, I like some of the contemporary watches quite a lot as well. From my perspective, I think they coexist perfectly, right? I think you have something that is more of a bridge to the past, and then you have another one that's kind of more of a bridge to the future, but they both empower each other. How do you
you mentioned it earlier, you said expressivity, and expressivity is exactly what we stand for. Expressivity is not a size, expressivity is the fonts, the design, what we did with the several layers, and same thing we do with our contemporary skeletons, very expressive pieces. So under this expressivity, I mean, this definitely makes sense and can coexist with what we're doing today.
Amazing. You know, that expressivity is so beautifully articulated also in all these watches that Roger and Carlos oversaw. But I have to say, guys, this watch has just launched on November 12th. My birthday was yesterday. So in some ways, it's a fantastic birthday gift, even though I'm not sure. I have to check with my wife whether I'm able to purchase a new watch. But anyway, by the time I'm saying this, they'll probably all be gone because there's all 28 of them. But again, this just makes me smile. This is really the perfect watch at the perfect time, perfectly executed for Roger Dubuis, but for everything that we as collectors love as well in terms of size and design. So bravo, Roger Dubuis. Well done, David and Antoine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wade.
Peace.